Initially it was rough.
My dad had an outhouse, so we had
Wow.
to go outside, man. If you had to do a number 2 or number 1, right? Number 1 you can do in the house in the bucket.
What other jobs did you have that led you up to being a car salesman?
My struggle in the beginning was, okay, now I got to teach other people how to do the same thing, how to duplicate me. I can't be the one selling everything. In the moment, it didn't teach me anything, but later on, it's like, whew, like, just remembering those experiences of things that,
Kirkland, salute to you. Yeah, because that's major, man. Like, there's not a lot of people that's willing to do that, especially if it's going to impact their bottom line.
Welcome to the Forte Podcast, where we're highlighting skill sets and traits from not only entrepreneurs, but solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. And here on the Forte Podcast, we don't only just highlight those attributes via a video platform or audio platform. Our intention is to bring these guests to you via the Forte Experience. The Forte Experience is a network party like you've never seen before. Like, that's right, network party. We're bringing the traits, the skills, what you see at a network event and what you see at a party and hybriding together. So this way you can be able to enjoy yourself and be able to grow your business at the same time. Our next event is in Atlanta, November 2nd. So subscribe to www.theforteexperience.com. Again, www.theforteexperience.com, so you could be up to date and in the know when tickets drop, because the early bird will be the only bird.
And welcome to the Forte Podcast. I'm your co-host, Dominic Epps.
And I'm your co-host, Randall Monfiston.
And we are here to dive into your lane of greatness to discover what comes easy for you that may not be easy for all others.
Everyone's a genius, from the 9-to-5 employee to the Fortune 500 billionaire. We're here to highlight those attributes that dialogue and interviews with amazing guests.
Absolutely. So, brother, I got one question for you.
What's that, bro?
What's your forte? Let's go.
What's your forte?
Mr. Fortea. What's up, bro?
Fortea. Man, I can't wait to send our first distro email out saying, hey, hello, Forteas. I can't wait to do that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Hello, Forteas, man. Listen, y'all. I want to just go ahead and dive right into what we got tonight. If that's okay with you. You know what I'm saying? I know everybody enjoy. I know you enjoyed the week, right? The weather is hot. It's hot everywhere, right? But you know what? This episode tonight, it's fire. It's hot already. I know it's hot. So, my brother, come on, man. Introduce, who do we have today?
All right. So we have another guest that's going to highlight his forte. We have Felix Kuteyi, CEO and founder of Felix Kuteyi Insurance Agency. So Felix, come off a mic and tell these people, what's your forte?
Hello, everyone. My name is Felix Kuteyi. I'm the owner of Felix Kuteyi Insurance Agency, and I'm an insurance broker. So I produce, I solicit all lines of insurance, auto, home, life, health, and even bank products as well. And yeah.
So when you say that you're like you broker, who you broker for? What kind of insurance companies that you broker insurance deals for?
State Farm, Gaines Co., and Maryland Auto Insurance.
Okay. And let's just drive that home a little bit. What does that look like to people? Like when I go to State Farm and I'm calling State Farm, 1-800 State Farm, right? State Farm neighbor or whatever. I forgot the slogan that they have. I'm talking
like
to
a good neighbor.
like a good neighbor. State Farm is there, right? So
yep.
Where do you fit into that whole puzzle of State Farm? If I'm calling them, I'm not calling a helpline. I'm calling someone like you, or you're a different piece to the whole State Farm industry.
That's a good question. So the way it can go several different ways. One of the quickest ways, most times people are not really, if they are calling 1-800 State Farm, what State Farm corporate is going to do, they're going to try to connect them to the closest agent to their zip code, or the closest agency to their zip code. And every agency tries to make themselves unique, by having a storefront or whatever you call it, and even with my office, we're licensed in multiple states, so it does help. And then even with having even reviews on our Google page, 5-star Google reviews, that does help. So when it comes down to the selection of who State Farm Corporate is going to send that person over to, they're going to try to send them to the most reputable agency within a certain amount of a
Ecosystem.
certain mile radius. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So is that like a franchisee type of thing where you're buying
It
in? Of course,
is.
you got your credentials and training, all that, but are you saying,
Hmm.
hey, I want to buy into State Farm Network and then I want to have
Yep.
this code or this neighborhood or whatever the case may be?
That's exactly what it is. And like I said, there really aren't any boundaries or territories. Like I said, again, I'm licensed in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. Not every agent that's in Maryland is going to extend their license to DC or Virginia, but I did. Some of them do, some don't. Some will extend it to Pennsylvania or other areas that they want to target specifically. So.
Got it. So before we dive too deep into where you are now, let's take a step back and talk about how did you get here? What were the decisions? What were the hurdles? Like kind of walk us through how did you come to decide that you wanted to create your own insurance agency with State Farm and then and others?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I started back in 2013, so almost 11 years ago, August of 2013. I was actually about to get married when I applied for. So that marks 11 years, even for my wedding anniversary as well with my wife. So I used to sell cars for 6, 7 years, and it was it was a good opportunity, but I didn't feel like it was a career based opportunity. So I started to make that transition right before we got married, and we got married August 3rd, and I started August 19th. So right after I got back from my honeymoon, I started the new
Man,
position. And yeah, I know, right? And was still selling cars on the side. I would still go, from, to the auction because I was still kind of playing it safe with both opportunities. And then as I started to make some money with State Farm, at that time I was working for an agent. So I applied to work under an agent, like how I have, agents that work for me as well. So, and once I started, I wasn't sure initially if I wanted to open up my own. I was 50% sure, and then again, as I started to get my foot in the door, then I decided to make that transition after 2.5 years, almost 3 years, and then decided to open up my own agency.
That's dope.
so
That's dope. Yeah.
So
Thank you,
would you
thank you.
consider the guy that you I guess the individual that you worked with for 2.5 years when you first jumped in, that's kind of like your mentor? They kind of laid the groundwork and the infrastructure that kind of embedded the seed in your mind. You'd be like, hey, I could do this on my own. I could go out here and create my own
Absolutely.
agency.
Absolutely.
Got
And you don't always get those opportunities as well, because sometimes, especially if, and I'm not tooting my own horn, I'm not, that kind of guy, but I was really killing it my first 2.5 years. And, I
it. Hmm.
was really killing it. So, which was a great thing. But the reason I say that is because sometimes people want to hold you back, and they see that, like,
Yeah.
hold on, he making me all this money. I can't let him go open his own. I gotta hold him back. Just he was great.
He saw an eagle and he didn't want to clip your wings. Right.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
that's dope.
Absolutely.
So Felix, let's
So,
dive into your upbringing, man. Tell us a little bit about, where you from and how was life growing up, man?
sure, sure, sure. So, before I get into where I'm from, as far as I grew up in PG County, Prince George's County. However, um, my parents are from Nigeria. Both of my parents, my mother and my father, are both from Nigeria. So, I was born and raised in the United States. I was born in DC. I didn't live in DC. I was just born in a hospital. I grew up in Riverdale, Maryland area, and yeah, and then from there I lived in Greenbelt, and then I transitioned into to Glendale, from Glendale to Crofton. So full circle again. I lived in Nigeria actually for 2.5 years. So when I was 10, I went there when I was about 10 years old, and I stayed there until I was about 12 years old, and I got to experience, part of Nigeria as well, going to school, really just living, you know, actually, just living the culture, the actual Nigerian culture, and so that helped as well. And then when I got back, I moved to Greenbelt, And then from there, I went and moved to Glendale. And like I said, in Crofton, I've been in Crofton for about 10 years, 11 years now. So
Gotcha. So give us, man, in the Nigerian fashion, what was something your mom or your dad said to you in that dialect that stuck with you?
And they didn't really, so I can speak somewhat, I can understand more than I can speak. Going from there, but again, my parents, my mom and my dad went to college here. They went to University of Maryland, so they were. I'm not going to say they were Americanized, but to an extent, they were kind of Americanized. So they didn't really speak the language to me. But something in English that my mom used to always tell me was, "Half bread is better than none." Right, and that's what my mom used to always say to me. Yeah, and then my dad,
Say
he
that
used to
one
always
time. He
say,
said, half bread is
half
better
bread
than none.
is better than nothing.
Okay.
hmm So, and what she meant by that was more so, again, just something is better than nothing. And then sometimes, we
Yeah.
take things for granted, and just learning to appreciate what we have, no matter how little it is, learning to appreciate that, or making the best of it, using that small little opportunity, right, to turn it into something bigger. And then my dad used to always say prevention is better than cure. And I still say that to this day, and I joke with my kids and my wife, prevention is better than cure. He's always like, listen, it's better for you to prevent something from happening than for you to try and cure it.
Wow.
So those
Yeah.
are my biggest takeaways that, again, all the time I use it. So
That's good,
yeah.
man. So those 2 years in Nigeria, kind of talk to us about how was that as a child, because it's one thing for someone to their family to be from there, right? But for you to have been born here in the States, and then you had the
hmm
opportunity to live 2 years in Nigeria. How was that total experience, man? As a young kid, as a teenager, basically, how was that experience for you?
It was initially it was rough. It was very rough because, again, what you're used to in the United States. I think, again, there's a lot of luxuries that we take for granted until you go. Especially back then, it was a lot worse than it is now. Of course, it's gotten a lot better in Nigeria. That was 23, 24 plus 25 years ago. Actually, I was 10, I'm 35. Yeah, so 25 years ago. But again, it humbled me a lot. Not right away, like later on in life, but going backwards to when I was in Nigeria, when I first get in there, there's a lot that's different. So it really taught me a lot to learn how to appreciate, again, some of the small things that we take for granted, even just the way people sell food on the road, and just going to go get water from a well to take a bath. It's the little things like that. Again, I didn't realize that at 10 years old, like, oh my, I should appreciate this. But later on in life, now certain things you start to realize, like, and for me, and I can't say everyone, but it definitely humbled me a lot as I started to pass through those teenage years up into my adult years.
Yeah, that's
The
definitely
little
a
things
culture
like that.
shock. That's a culture shock
Absolutely,
for sure,
absolutely. Get
man.
into school,
Yeah,
walking to school, or taking, a taxi, and out there you're really just riding with somebody that's on a dirt bike. That they
right.
call it Okada. So someone
Gotcha.
that's on like a dirt bike, and you jump on the back and you pay them money, right? And the roads are rough. Hey, we complain about rough roads here. It's nothing compared to Nigeria roads, especially in Lagos, where I was at in Festac. So,
Gotcha.
I'm not trying to make it sound like it's the worst in the world, but like I
Yeah.
said, it was a lot worse than you think about the average roads around here that we consider as bad
Yeah.
roads.
Yeah.
So again, some of those experiences like that, even the school system where you're ranked in class. So again, based on it's 30, if it's 31 people in the class, you're ranked in your class based on how well you do academically. So that makes a difference as well. And not doing your homework and things like that, like they don't tolerate that. You will get whooped in front of the whole class. They'll bring you up to the
Woo.
front and you'll get a whooping with the stick. So again, in the moment, it didn't teach me anything, but later on, it's like, whew, like just remembering those experiences of the things that that took place out there. So
My mom,
yeah.
man, when I was young, my mom, she said to me and my brother, man, you don't know how good you got it, right? And we knew we were poor growing up in the hood, but we didn't know how good we had it, man, until we went and visit my dad and stayed with my dad, man. And no bathroom. My dad had an outhouse, so we had to go outside, man. If you had to do a number 2 or number 1, right? Number 1 you can do it in the house in a bucket, but then you had to, even if you did it in the house, you had to go out there and dump it in the out. Man, it was the most humbling experience ever.
Wow.
Right? Kerosene heaters, like. Come back home and mom would have us to take all of our clothes off at the door because she didn't want that smell in the house. You know what I mean?
Smell, what?
But it was humbling, right? And I know we won't get into this with your story, but it's one of the reasons why we probably go as hard as we go. Because of that experience. So how has the Nigerian experience in Nigeria, how has that translated into who you are today?
Maximizing every opportunity, and it's easier said than done. Maximizing every opportunity. Discipline. Discipline, of course, came from my parents, and then even just and sticking through. Finishing. When you start something, finishing it, and that's something that's probably one of the biggest takeaways. Just anything you start, making sure you finish it. I preach that to my kids. If you jump into tennis and you decide after the second practice, I don't want, no, you're going to finish it. You got to at least finish out the season, right? Whether you decide to continue after that, cool, but you can't start it and then halfway through it, decide I don't want to do it anymore. You gotta, and because it's going to also help you to teach you, again, anything you do in life, whether it's sports related or work related or anything, it's going to teach you that, you shouldn't give up. And sometimes you don't like things in the beginning. Later on down the road, you might eventually start liking it based on you just the repetition of doing it. You start to enjoy, or you start to find ways to enjoy it, or find the light at the end of the tunnel. So that's probably the biggest takeaway was definitely discipline. Discipline.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. So what I take away from that is you're committing past the moment of that good feeling when the idea first popped in your head. So for the example you
Yes.
gave with tennis, oh, this is a great idea. I see Serena, I see whomever on ESPN, they're doing a great job. I could do that. Then when you're doing practice and you're doing 4 or 5 hours of hitting the ball back and forth, hitting the net, like it's not going the way you wanted it to go, and then you like that feeling goes away. But committing past that feeling, or committing past that good feeling through the phase of, oh, I'm feeling down, and then wait for it to come back up. Yeah. I definitely, yeah. So that's why I want our viewers and listeners to take away from that. A lot of times you're going to start something in the good feeling phase, but if you're trying to get to the other end where it's feeling good again, you got to commit through the when it's not feeling good phase.
Come on, brother. Preach, brother. You talking relationships here, Randall. Let's go, man. Let's go. Preach, brother. Let's go. After you get through that honeymoon phase, right? This is where the real work starts. Yeah, that's
true, though. It's so true. That is true. That is very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
That's cool, man.
All right. So go ahead, Don.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna like transition back to where we're at, where we were talking about with him going from car salesman.
You're getting out of pastor mode. I got you.
But if you still want to stay, if you're still in childhood mode, we could talk about that still. I don't want to take away from that.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. You good.
Yeah. So before you became a car salesman, so you said in 2013, that you started doing, or you transitioned from car salesman to then go into the insurance game. Were there any other things? I think with a car salesman, you're not like a W-2, you're like a 1099, right? What other jobs did you have that led you up to being a car salesman? Or are you always in some type of entrepreneur salesmanship type of industry or job?
So, yes and no. So when I was 18, 19, I started working at Home Depot. Actually, it might have been 19. I was working at Home Depot while I was still selling cars as well. Again, so the selling cars aspect, I didn't mention that earlier. So my stepdad, he owns a car dealership, and so throughout my my actual, and even taking it back even further, my biological dad, Felix Sr., he actually owned an insurance agency. So, but funny enough, I never inspired to own an insurance agency when I was younger. Right, I was like, 7, 8, 9 years old before I went to Nigeria. I never had any intentions, oh, I'm going to open up my own insurance agency. So fast forwarding to my teenage years, again, my mom, dad, they got divorced right before I went to Nigeria. So again, but my stepdad, I was around the cars all the time, and that was what I kind of gravitated to. And I started selling cars. I was flipping my own cars. So I wasn't necessarily working for him. I was buying my own cars from the auction and right and flipping them, selling them. So fast forwarding, yeah. So while I was doing that, I ended up also working at Home Depot. And, even through my high school years, I was also that's why I kind of chuckled when you were asking when you said about the, entrepreneurship. I used to sell cell phones. I used to sell candy when I was in high school, so the part of that, and my mom, she owned a dollar store. So I think the entrepreneurship was kind of already embedded within me, from both of my dads, and then, my mom as well. My mom was a real estate agent, and an investor. And then again, she had a dollar store, she had a daycare, she had a restaurant. So yeah, all at the same time, those moving pieces. And that was throughout my teenage years where I kind of was watching it, but I wasn't really watching it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So
Yeah, you had the example, the example
hmm
in front of you, but it was
Yeah.
yeah.
registering subconsciously, and now consciously you're acting on those examples
hmm
that you've seen as a child. All right, so
hmm
so let's walk because viewers are gonna want to know, right? For people, the reason we do this is so people could then follow in the same footsteps if they
Absolutely.
interested in the industry that the guests are in. So how one, why State Farm, right? Because there's
hmm
other insurance companies out there, and then two, what is that process like to then be to apply and get accepted?
Good question.
Okay. Good question about why State Farm. So, at the time that I didn't do as much research as I should have, but I think everything worked out exactly how it should have. And what I mean by that is, I didn't I didn't apply at multiple insurance offices or agencies at that time when I first started. However, as I was transitioning into my own agency, then I started to understand, of course, a lot more about the business and the differences between us and, I won't mention any names, but the competitors for the most part. And right, you could say I'm biased, but State Farm offers the most support. And support, what I mean is the back end support, right? From the claims, from the billing, from underwriting, just back end support with knowledge base. A lot of the other companies, and there's no shade on any other company, but they're just, some of them, they'll even allow you to just buy your book. So you can just buy in and there's no training. So you're coming in, and day one trying to figure it out. It's almost like you have some money and you're like, hey, I'm gonna buy this plumbing business. They look like they're doing good, and then I'm just gonna jump into it. I don't know nothing about plumbing, and now I got to figure it out. So the difference with State Farm is that they put you through training process. I had to go to Atlanta, Georgia, back and forth for about 5 weeks, not all at once, but it was kind of spread out over a 3-month time frame for training. Even though I had experience working as a team member, is what you call it, as an agent team member, I still had to go through 5 weeks of training to learn the ins and outs of the business, right? How to run a business. Again, hiring employees, all of the above. So that's a lot of the back end support that they give you, even just the knowledge base of a lot of the things that I wasn't taught as a team member. So that's the difference with, again, us and a lot of the other companies. And I'm not going to say all of the companies,
Yeah.
but a lot of the other companies, they don't, it's almost like the Chick-fil-A, right? With the Chick-fil-A, they don't let you just come in the door. You kind of have to start from the bottom and work your way up to management and then decide to open up your own branch. And some people might say, well, it takes too long to go that route. And yes, it could take longer, but it allows you to learn the ins and outs of the business so that you know how to operate that business versus
That's
just
good.
coming in, right, throwing money at it and thinking, I'm just going to figure it out, like, along the way. And although you might figure it out, but there's a really high chance that you're going to struggle a lot. So
So how did your conversation go with your team lead when you was ready to, say, you know what, I'm ready to take this leap of faith, man, and and start my own. How did that conversation go? And were you nervous with having that conversation, or your relationship was kind of close knit to where you knew that he would be supportive?
So that conversation actually came. I started August. I want to say, I'm just going to throw out there and say about 6 months into it. So right around, we're going to call it February of the following year is when that conversation came up. The conversation came up not so much of me being ready to just jump out there and do it at that moment, but more so like, like I think I could see myself doing this, right? How can I go from here to here, right? And so at that moment, it didn't feel awkward, or anything like that, because it wasn't like I was saying, hey, I'm about to leave tomorrow, right? It wasn't anything like that. It was, he's telling me like, hey, if you're serious about this, I'll mentor you, to your point earlier. And, now from that point on, he started to bring me in closer on a lot of some of the decisions that he was making as the agent within the business, and understanding his decision making as well, when he's making certain decisions about just marketing stuff or even just the numbers that we're going over in our team meeting. So it helped to put things into a better perspective for me, where I started to see some of those things and understand it a lot more, and really just how to make money, right? He wasn't fully transparent, but he was transparent enough to show me how the business was making money and what things were important and not important. So
That's kudos to him,
yeah.
man. What's his name, man? Shout him out, man. Shout him out, man. Shout him out,
His
man.
name is Kirk Lynn. Yeah, he lives in Pennsylvania now. So
Kirk Lynn, hey, man, salute to you. Yeah, because that's major, man. Like, there's not a lot of people that's willing to do that, especially if it's going to impact their bottom line.
Yes, and I say that to him all the time.
Yeah.
We probably like a year ago, my son had a tournament in Pennsylvania, and I went to go visit him. And from time to time, we still talk. He still kind of mentors me. And one time, I said, I was like, thanks again, for the opportunity, because it's fast forward. I'm like, man, where I'm at now compared to back then. And he's always like, no, man, you did all the work. And I'm like, yeah, I did, but exactly to what you just said, some people will hold you back because they see that, like, I have a gym and I don't want to lose this person, and I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm not. I promise I'm not. But it's one of those things that he was just like, I'll help you versus holding you back.
Yeah,
and I'm super appreciative of that, and I still thank him, like I said, till this day. So
yeah, that's dope. That's dope.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I forgot where I was listening. I don't know if it was TD Jakes. I feel like it was the video you sent me, Don. But either way, when you're growing, right? Like, the purpose of a leader, of any leader, is to be able to foster some type of growth in the people that they're training, that they're leading, right? So what good am I as a leader if I'm not allowing you to continue to grow, whether to be at my peer level or to go past me, right? So I think those who may be listening or watching it, and they're like, man, am I in that position? And my leader is questioning whether or not I should be able to go, really question if they're the right leader for you, right? Because if they don't have your best interest at heart, they're not a true leader, right? So, like, some may be able to give you the truth that you may not realize, like, you're not as good as you may think you are, right? So take that with a grain of salt. But at the same time, be mindful. If you out there and you always racking up whatever, if it's sales and you're always the top leader in sales, if you're showing that you're able to lead your own smaller team, right, ask on for more responsibilities. But if they keep on shunning you away from responsibilities, and the reasons don't 2 + 2 don't equal 4, it keeps on equaling 3, then you might not be in the right space. So don't shy away from the fact that you are outgrowing the space that you're in. It's okay to outgrow. That's the purpose of being in life. Life is to grow.
Come on, man. Let's go, man. I had an agent, man, that was on my team, right? So before we started the firm, I was a team leader, right? This agent, man, she came on my team, man, and I told her immediately after I interviewed her, I said, you're not going to be with me long. She was like, why you say that? I was like, nah, you're an eagle, right? So I show you what I need to show you, but it's very obvious that you really don't need me. And most people join teams because they feel like they need someone to kind of give them the upper hand, right? And so it was so dope, man, to be able to train her. but I knew I was training her to leave. I won't training her to stay, right? And so when she finally made a decision and say, all right, I'm about to depart, it was with so much love, man. You know what I'm saying? With so much love. And so anybody that's not willing to let you go with an upper hand is a slave master. I say it again. Anybody that's not willing to let you go with an upper hand is a slave master, and they're only focusing on themselves. But true leaders, right? True leaders understand they need disciples, right? And so, and it can't just be about you. So for him to be able to pour into you, knowing that you wasn't going to stay with them long, right? But you're going to benefit the culture more than you benefit him, because there are going to be so many people that's looking at you and say, oh man, I can do insurance now. Like Wall Street Trapper says, Wall Street looks like us. You can say, hey, insurance looks like us now. Because when you go to those conferences, because I've been there, I've been in those rooms where I'm the only African-American in the room, right? So you go to these spaces and you're like, man, I got to teach more people how to do this. I got to teach more of my people how to do this, because I can't be the only ones, right? And so kudos to him again, man. I'm going to keep shouting him out, man. Kudos to him, man, because that's major, man. So Felix, give us some, when you started your own business, right? Everybody wants to know about the success stories, but we want to get down to the nitty gritty, to the real, raw, uncut. What was one of the most challenging times that you have experienced when you branched out and did this yourself? Give us a challenging moment.
I love that question. And so Randall said something earlier. I don't remember exactly what he said, but about when you're a high producer, right? But when you're selling a lot, but now you mentioned something about leadership, as far as being able to lead a team, right? So again, Kirk taught me a lot about the business and all of the above. Now, it's not so much that I struggled with leading a team, but I was such a high producer, right? I knew how to do it myself. My struggle in the beginning was, okay, now I got to teach other people how to do the same thing, how to duplicate me. I can't be the one selling everything. Yeah, it's going to work. We might hit some, but now I got to teach you how to do it, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you. I can't. So yeah, you got to lead by example, but there's a fine line of when you kind of have to pull back and now be that coach and take off that producer hat, right? And now be the coach. So that was probably the biggest struggle. Not even probably. That was between that and figuring out. Yeah, that was the biggest struggle, because even the other things that I'm going to say, they kind of piggyback off of, again, taking the hat off of me being the primary and only producer. So my first year, of course, I was the main producer, right? Yeah, it was bringing some new folks in, and they're learning along the way. But 95% of the production, it was me, right? And that's just because it was so. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I started as a scratch agent. Scratch, what they mean is that you start with 0 clients.
Wow.
And I took that leap of faith, right?
I didn't have a book of business. So no book of business when you started. Wow.
Nothing. First day, no phones ringing. Everybody, I'm looking at them. I'm like,
you cold
calling. We going out in the field. Going out in the field. We cold calling this, so there's pros and cons to that. I'm not going to say one is better than the other.
Yeah.
But again, I started out scratch. So again, it was all about hustling and bustling. I had a deal. I had referral connections, internet leads, all of the above, lists that they could call. So that was how we started out. But again, fast forwarding, 95% of the production, I did it. So then I get into year 2, and I'm like, all right, well, I don't mind producing. I'm still going to be producing, but I got to pull this back a little bit, because now I got to be able to manage the business itself. So now I'm doing about 75% of the production. I'm transitioning into year 3. And I'm like, okay. Because now I got to focus on, now that we have customers, now we have to focus on servicing the customers. So now it's not just about producing only, it's now servicing and producing right? So it's people walking out the back door, but you also welcoming people in the front door, and you're trying to save those people from going out the back door. So it became one of those where it's like, well, now I'm trying to do both, but then now I'm trying to coach this team on the struggles that they're dealing with, with selling insurance, or calling out, just all of the hats that you wear as a business owner versus a producer. So to answer the question, right, full circle, that was my biggest struggle. It was a transitioning from a high producing team member to actually being a CEO or a business owner, right? Running your business, right, in a way where, again, it's not so much that I don't have to do anything, but my hands are not in the business. It's working on the business, right?
Yeah.
I know people say that the famous saying, right, working on the business, not in the business. So that was the hardest transition for me,
Right.
was that.
Yeah. And this is what I want people to understand, right? Is that when you're producing, like I had the same transition. When you're producing in this sales industry, right? Your production creates your income, right? When you have to take time to train, which means now I'm training the agents and my production drops, which also means my income drops, right? And now I'm hoping that I find a rock star that's like me, right? That can duplicate and can help supplement the income that I'm losing from my production dropping, right? But then you wrestle with the agents that's like, man, you out here producing, right? So now they want to leave because you're not giving them the training unless you have systems in place. And we're going to talk about this. Unless you have systems in place, right? But if you don't have the right systems in place and you out there producing and they see your name at the top of the board, like you crushing it, and they're like, well, what about me? Right? And they probably came to your branch because of what they see you doing, and they're hoping that you can duplicate that with them, but you don't have the time because you got bills to pay, right? You got expenses, you got overhead. So you're like, listen, I mean, I want to train you, but truth be told, I can't stop doing what I'm doing because if I stop, who's going to pay these bills, right? And that's a real challenge that business owners have, and most people don't talk about. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah. What you got, Rand?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm selfishly ask a question that's for me. So Felix and I, when we first met, we were kind of deep diving. As soon as I heard he was State Farm Insurance, right? I'm thinking immediately, there's a play I've been trying to run. I've been trying to put to the ground, right? So got a whole website, everything. Haven't done nothing with it. So the play that I have is to be able to take homes that have sustained some type of fire damage, offer some type of assistance to the people who have sustained the fire damage. So the insurance company pays them off whatever they owe on a house. That's provided that there's a smaller mortgage than a bigger mortgage remaining on the house. I come in with just the extra fluff to say, hey, I give you $20,000-$30,000. Advertise as in I'll pay a down payment towards your next home. Really, I'm just giving you $20,000-$30,000, but that's about the same amount that you'll need to get into the next house. So instead of dealing with renovating this current home that you just sustained fire damage to, you can get into your next house within 30, 45 days instead of dealing with the insurance company that's going to take you 4 or 5 months to fix the current home that you're in. I've struggled with, and I've been trying to find an insurance agent who's able to give me the behind the scenes on how does that work? Is that idea even viable? Can insurance companies cut a check to the owner who has maybe, let's say, $100,000 remaining on a house that they got 20 years ago? And then that person's able to pay off whatever, let's say $50,000 remaining on the loan. And then they have 50,000 remaining. Does that even exist? Is that even possible? Or are insurance policies only to replace what was damaged, and they don't do any cash out, like clearing of the loans or anything like that?
Yeah, so that you kind of said it spot on. It's not funny, but I was doing research on that. I reached out to a claim representative that I knew, just off the books kind of thing, just buddy of mine. Just so I wanted to relate it to like a car scenario situation. So like, if you have a lien on a car, right, and the car has damage to the front, and and you're thinking how much it's going to cost for you to get the car fixed, the whole 9 yards, and you offer, because maybe that person doesn't want to go through the hassle of fixing the car or waiting for their car to get fixed. You offer them X amount of money to just buy the car from them. But again, back to your point, the insurance is designed to replace or fix the home or the vehicle or whatever the case may be. So it wouldn't be a situation where they would settle to just pay off the home. They would either, if the home is damaged, if it's the top level that's damaged, State Farm or any insurance company is going to say, hey, we're going to pay, right? That's what the insurance is for. We're going to pay to fix that top level or whatever, middle level or whatever is damaged. And if they decide, they can't really decide to say, hey, we just want to pay off the home, right? Because I'm trying to think of the best way to answer that question. So, I mean, the short answer is no. The fast answer is if they didn't have a loan on the home, I think that would work a lot better. That's when I think it could be a piece of cake.
Let me
go for it.
Because I've actually experienced this. I had a tenant that we had a triplex. Tenant set one of the units on fire. Right, I got a phone call 2:00 in the morning. Man, the bottom level, the lower level was burnt. Right, but it wasn't. I mean, it was bad, but it was like one room that was completely just done. Right. Then you have smoke or whatever, okay? Mm-hmm. This is where having the right policy set up is important. This is so important. Now, because we purchased the property for a good price, right? We had equity in it. Our policy was more, the replacement amount was way more than what we owed. Okay. It was way more than what we owed on the mortgage, okay? And so we were actually in the process of refinancing. So we was refinancing, about to do the bird play, right? We done renovated it. And so now we were in the process of refinancing, looking to pull cash out, whatever the case may be. Then boom, this happens, right? The good thing is we had a good policy. So there was enough money from now the adjuster, and your communication with the adjuster is important. Mm-hmm. Having your invoices, having, what you paid for repairs, what, your appliances, having all the receipts, having the value of what those items are so important. And smoke damage, man. Smoke damage is, they're cut a check. So even if it's not a lot of fire damage, just smoke damage by itself, or them coming in and having water damage because they had to put the fire out, right? So, man, the adjuster, and I stayed on them, kept giving them receipts and invoices, and I had pictures of, before, because we just renovated it, like literally a month, just renovated it, man.
Wow.
And so they came in, man, and it paid off the loan and still had 6 figures left over. So in that case, I could have just sold it. I could have said, you know what? And even a contractor was like, listen, man, they're going to cut you a check. Right? You don't have to fix it up. You don't have to use the check to fix it up. You can just keep the check, right? Because your mortgage is paid for. You can keep the check and you can sell it for pennies if you want to, right? But of course, I didn't want to lose the asset. But it depends on equity and depends on what they owe on it. And it depends on the type of policy they have. Because if that policy, covers that, then boom, they good. They're gonna be good. So it worked.
I'm gonna reverse my answer a little bit, and I'm not gonna say fully no, because even as you broke it down and put it into that perspective as well, to Randall's point, because I know we had that discussion before. So I'm gonna say it depends, and the reason why again I go back to it depends is because if it's not necessarily only if they don't have a loan on the home, but also if I just lost my train of thought. If they don't have a loan on the home, but then also if you decide to pay off what they owe, that was what I was running in my brain. So if you decide to pay off, let's just say, I think you mentioned, let's just say they owe $50,000 or something like that, and then it's going to be maybe not 50. Let's say they owe, let's say they owe 50,000. The home is worth, 300,000, and then it's going to cost, 40,000 to fix whatever damage. I think that's a scenario that it could work, to your point, because essentially the biggest thing is the only way to get it from them is by paying off their loan. So at that point, whatever amount you decide to buy it for, right, whatever deal you decide to work out with them based on the convenience of them not having to fix it, I think that's when it'll work out, 100% in your favor.
Yeah.
So now you're paying, like you said, you're paying the money for their down payment on the next house. They don't have to worry about the hassle of getting the home fixed, whatever the case is, and then boom. So now when you fix it and now it's time to sell it, right? You're able to make that profit. So,
or you can do a land contract, or you can do a land contract. You can do a subject to, right? So even if you don't pay the mortgage off, right, just take over the mortgage payment and give them, a portion and just do a sub to on it. So
Yep.
Hold on, man. Why don't we just give the world his play, brother? Why don't we just give the world his play?
Everybody's not gonna do it. It's a headache. Everybody's not gonna do it.
Okay, all right.
Wait, say that again. The what?
I said, why did we give the world his play? We just gave the whole world. But you're right, though. They can have the play.
I know, right?
Doesn't mean they're gonna run it. Doesn't mean they're gonna run it. So great point.
That's true.
And that doesn't mean they're gonna run it in the area I'm in. So it doesn't matter, right? So
absolutely.
But if you do have, or you come across a home that has sustained fire damage, and the owners have owned it for quite some time and they have equity in it, definitely hit us up at the Forte community via Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. You can drop a comment on this YouTube video right now, and we'll get in contact with you.
And we'll give you a referral fee.
And a referral fee.
Yeah.
I think that, and I just want to throw something out there. I think Randall made a good point. It's funny because it's almost kind of like, going to the gym. People ask, "Oh, what's your gym routine?" I'm like, I'll tell you. I wake up at this time. This is what I eat in the morning. This is what I eat in the afternoon. Blah blah. Most people ain't gonna do it.
Right.
They'll write it down. All of the above. They probably won't do it anyway. So
the instruction is the easy part. Applying instructions, the application instructions.
I'm telling you,
that's the headache.
Yeah,
that's the headache.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So look, Felix, are we going to see you in one of these State Farm videos, commercials, man, with Chris Paul, man?
That's the hope, man. I met him before. I met him. I met Jake. His name is really Kevin, but I met Jake. Yeah, I met them in Las Vegas at a convention. But listen, that's the hope, man. If I could slither my way in there, and become the face of the commercial, that would be great. But so wishful thinking.
So for someone that's looking to get involved, they want to get started as a insurance agent. What are the process, man? What does it take for them to get started?
Well, now you don't have to work in an agent's office. Before, that used to be one of the requirements. You have to work in an agent's office for at least 18 months. Now that isn't the case. You have to do field study within an agent's office, just a couple of weeks of just kind of mentoring or being a mentee of the agent and learning from them. Of course, you have the 5 weeks of training. So, but I do recommend someone that has never been in the insurance industry at all. I don't recommend you just jumping straight into it that route. I recommend you working in an agent's office for at least 18 months, learning the ins and outs of just the system and understanding the business and all of the above, and then start to make that transition into going into agency, going through the 5 weeks of training, saving up your money, going to get loans if you need to get loans and things like that, to hit the ground running on a good note. So, and State Farm offers
what's the buy-in?
Well.
Yeah.
What's the buy-in for to get into it?
The thing about it is, it really is, the buy-in is really just your own capital that you have, so you're not you're not purchasing a State Farm agency. And that is also one of the so you're not coming in and saying, hey, I want to buy this size agency or that size agency. You're more so coming in. Again, that's why I said coming in, learning the business, going through the training, and coming in with your money, whatever amount of money you can have that you can invest into the business right away, so you can hit the ground running.
Wow.
and kind of market yourself. So,
is there a certain radius where another State Farm, like you couldn't open up within a certain radius from another agency?
There used to be.
Okay.
They used to be back in the day, even back before I started. That whole thing kind of went away, and the reason why is because now State Farm, there's some agents that share offices, right? That's not my thing, but there's some agents. There might be two agents in one office, and they have a wall literally split, and depending on how big their team is.
Yep.
The reason why I chuckled is there's an agent. I moved my office about 2 years ago. I used to be off of Veterans Highway, if you're familiar with that area in Millersville, and I used to be inside the Strayer University on third floor. Long story short, so I moved my office down the street, and I am within like it's almost like townhouses. When the other townhouses on the other side, I could throw a rock at his building. And that's how close we are. We joke and laugh about it. So that was why I kind of chuckled when you asked that question. But no, there isn't a certain radius that you have to be.
Did he feel like you was kind of intruding on his territory though? Like
No, and out of respect, I've reached out to him before I even signed the lease, before I even came and looked at it. I was just like, look, this is what's available in the area kind of thing. And he was just like, go for it. He didn't, he was okay with it, out of because I would want someone to extend the same respect, or I'm not gonna say confirmation, I didn't, but I would want someone to return a favor, if that was them as well. But again, I confirmed, and he was perfectly fine with it. So
that's cool.
Because ultimately, to your point, it doesn't impact anything.
Right.
It doesn't impact anything, honestly, because he could be an agent that is, doing nothing. He could be an agent that, even if he's a high producing agent, my office being right next door to his doesn't change anything, because ultimately, and I tell my team this all the time, people are going to do business with you because they like you. So at the end of the day, if my office is right beside Cliff's, the next agent's office, it wouldn't really make a difference, because if they like us, they're going to stay insured with us. Right?
That's good.
If they like him, they're going to stay insured with him. So it wouldn't make a difference, so.
Yeah.
So what kind of policies do you offer? Like, is it car insurance? I think State Farm is bigger just in car insurance and home insurance. What other things or other vehicles or programs does State Farm offer, or programs at your agency itself? Because you broker with other insurance companies as well. So what is the full gamut of your portfolio that people could come to you and get insurance in XYZ?
And the other one I didn't mention was Chesapeake Insurance. That's another one that we also do as well. But that's more like a third party. But I mean, again, still another insurance company that we solicit, or we write business for. So State Farm primarily does auto, and from the auto umbrella, it's personal line auto, and then you have business line auto, and then you have boat insurance, and then you have motorcycle insurance as well. And then on the fire side of things, you have homeowners insurance, renters, condo, business insurance, workers' compensation. We offer a large variety of those things, and then even did I say commercial auto? Yes, commercial auto as well, and then even life and health. So even with the health, some states they do individual health, but the states that I'm licensed in, we do supplemental health. So more like long-term care, short-term disability, long-term disability, hospital indemnity, those kind of things, and then life insurance. We do offer whole life and term insurance. There's some companies
you
that,
the plug.
Yeah.
Bruh. So I'm gonna tell you something, man. I had no idea that insurance agencies offer a wide variety of products. I thought it was just
even banking products too.
Home, auto, and boat, right? I didn't even think about everything else that you mentioned, man. So is that normal, or is that Nigerian part of you that says, yo, let's go ahead and get all of this. Let's get all of this. Like, is that normal or what? Talk to us.
It is normal for State Farm as far as offering. And now the thing about it is that even with some of like the banking products that we do, everyone might not decide to jump into the banking avenue. We used to have it through State Farm Bank, and now it's through U.S. Bank. They kind of partner with U.S. Bank, but again, some folks decide, that's not my thing. I don't want to jump into that. But the Nigerian in me, like you said, is again maximizing the opportunity. The opportunity is the agency. why not maximize all the different insurance policies that we're able to offer, even extending outside of State Farm with Maryland auto insurance, right? So that's for auto and business insurance, and also workers comp as well. And then Chesapeake is specifically for workers comp, and then Gaines Co is mainly for just auto insurance. So just being able to your point, like you said, being the plug, I like to refer to it as like one-stop shop, being able to help you with any of those insurance needs, because I don't want to have to refer you to someone else or somewhere else, because, again, if they're with Geico is a great company, but all they can get is auto and home, right? Geico, I know that Geico doesn't offer business insurance. I know they don't offer life insurance or health insurance or banking products. So when it comes to winning a customer over or a new customer, it does help, because people want to call one place for all their insurance needs. They don't want to have to call, oh wait, do I have Progressive for my auto? Do I have the General for my life for this? So they want to just call one place and just be able to get everything answered, from that one phone call.
So you like Walmart. You like Walmart right now. Right? You get all your errands done at Walmart. You go to bank at Walmart.
Right.
You go get manicure, pedicure, McDonald's.
Right.
Like
Seriously.
you get the eyes checked at Walmart. Everything.
Right.
No, that's good, man. Do you all, are you allowed to have relationships with adjusters? Or is that like something, because like in real estate, for instance, technically we don't suppose to have any affiliation with the appraisers, right? So when it comes to the adjusters, are you all able to have any affiliation with them, or does it have to be, hands off and you have no control over that?
Good question. Yeah, exactly what you said. You're kind of spot on. We can't really have a relationship, because even with, we can't have a relationship, with any of them, because of course it can become a conflict of interest, right? Because now it becomes a situation where, is that person, he or she, being influenced on their decision, to determine, the facts or cause or monetary aspect of how much it would cost to, to rebuild or replace or anything along those lines, or fix something. So yeah, I mean, you're spot on.
Gotcha.
The answer is pretty much no.
What is the conflict of interest, right? Because, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, when I'm thinking of this, right, as a salesman, you're just getting the client into the policy, right? Once the policy has been sustained, then not servicing, but any customer service needed, right? Like, hey, I want to file a claim. Are they calling you to file a claim, or are they calling
They are.
They're calling you to file the claim. Okay.
They're calling us. We're still getting them to the claims department, but we're collecting information from them. We're the middleman, and that's probably the perfect example, like the best example. We're right in the middle. We're in the center of everything, where you have claims, you have billing, you have underwriting, you have the adjuster, you have all of the above, and we're right in the middle, where the customer initially is going to call us for everything, and then we kind of disperse based on where they need to go, whether it's claims. We don't transfer them to underwriting, but we'll transfer them to, or really just, and it's not really a transfer. We're kind of doing a warm transfer, where we're calling the claims department and kind of explaining the situation and getting them on and on, and then connecting them on a three-way call, and then kind of releasing them that way. We're not really just pawning them off to the claims department or to the billing department or whatever the case is. So that's where it kind of comes into place, where we still have our hands kind of tied into the claim. So when it comes to having a relationship with adjusters, not saying that we can't have any interaction with an adjuster, but not really having like a, for every claim situation, I'm like, hey, the adjuster is going to come out, because now that's where the conflict of interest can now come into play.
So I got a question for you. So just as a late payment can impact someone's credit, how can a claim impact someone's insurance credit?
Or the premium, right? Like
Premium.
your question, the premium going up. Yeah.
Someone asked me that literally at the gym earlier this morning. He was asking me about it. He's not insured with me. He was just asking me a general question, and he asked me a question very similar to that. So the question he asked me was, about his policy going up based on a claim that he filed, but nothing was ever paid out. So, and I had to explain to him, even though money isn't paid out, they document it, right? Because at the end of the day, the insurance company is giving you a rate based on facts, right? Of, okay, your driving record, but also based on the probability of you getting into an accident or getting a ticket or anything along those lines. So when you file a claim or attempt to file a claim, again, whether money is paid out or not, that has or will have an impact, high or low, on your future premium for over the next 3 years. So, and then, to answer your question about the insurance credit, or, that impacts it as well. And even the payment history isn't necessarily a negative impact. It's like, it's just a contributing factor. It's not like your credit score where, it's, a certain percentage of of your score, or your payment history, but it does make a difference as well. If you're paying late all the time, or if your insurance is constantly lapsing and you're reinstating the policy, those things play a factor on even right. And it's no secret with this, but even tow history.
Wow.
Right? It sounds crazy, towing history, because again, it goes back to studies that I'm not able to prove it, but on the back end, insurance companies, they have the studies to back it. A vehicle that more likely, a vehicle that gets towed frequently, let's say you have 6 tows within the last 6 months, it makes you more likely to be involved in an accident.
Mm-hmm. So they use the metrics. Every metric that will result in them paying out of the insurance pool is used as a means of saying, all right, we need to increase their premium, because the likeliness we got to dish out based off of these trends is increasing. So from a risk mitigation, all right, I got you. Okay.
And I'm gonna tell
I'll
you,
even give you another example.
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'll give you another example. Even with you guys, I'm sure you're familiar or remember and it's still kind of a phase, the Kia and the Hyundai thing that was going on with the people stealing the Kias and the Hyundais. Oh, insurance companies got to a point where they were like, we won't even take those. We won't even insure you. State Farm got to, again, they were drastically increasing the rates for those folks, because even though, right, John Smith, right, has a Kia and he's had it for 5 years, he's never been in an accident or haven't had a claim, but they're stealing Kias out there. So the fact of the matter is that yours could get stolen and we would have to pay out. We're responsible. You transferred that financial obligation to us as an insurance company. So we have to honor that. So we have to prepare for that, just in case someone does steal your Kia. Even though you live in a good neighborhood, they steal it and we don't find it and it's not recoverable. We got to pay out $25,000, as a total loss, right? Or $15,000 or whatever that amount is. So now they have to jack up their rates. Wow. Even another example is even like car rental, or even parts and labor for a vehicle. Insurance company has to pay out money for your car rental, or pay out money for, the vehicle to be repaired. Body shops, repair facilities, they've increased their prices on labor. So the insurance company's like, somebody got to pay for it.
Man, so is this a myth? Because I've heard this, and I'm not sure if it's true or not. If your vehicle has the color red, your insurance is higher.
It's a myth.
Okay. All right. Because I've heard that. I was like, man, just by having a red vehicle. Wow.
It's a myth.
Okay.
And even the coupe thing, you probably heard, even about coupes versus sedans. I think to an extent it can be true, as far as, a coupe, versus a sedan or SUV, whatever the case is, sports car. So there's some truth to that, but there are still contributing factors. Like someone can have a Toyota Corolla with a bad driving record, and their insurance it might sound crazy, more than the next person that's driving a Porsche, or something along those lines, and you're like, wait a minute, why will it be more? And it's based on the history of that person. So, or it can be very similar in pricing. So,
So adding your kids to your insurance when they're young 16, 17 driver's license, that's gonna jump your
Yeah.
insurance premium up.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It is. And it's
So
really there's no way,
here's
there's
my
no way
last question
around
for
that.
you. Here's my last
Mhm.
question, Felix. I've noticed with our real estate properties, we used to be able to get a insurance premium, right? Get a policy with no field inspection. We just fill out the questionnaire, right? And boom,
Mhm.
we good. What's up with these inspections, man? Now they're coming out and they want to inspect and they're giving you a list of things that needs to be fixed. I'm like, wow, where did this come from?
The
Like,
bad people messed it up for the good ones.
Mm.
That's the best answer that I can give is that people,
yeah,
there were, before when I first started, again, that was 10 plus years ago, we used to have to go out and take pictures of, if we insure a home, we used to have to go out and take front and back side pictures of the home. And then that phase kind of went away. State Farm would now send out, not necessarily an inspector, but just someone, a surveyor, to go out there and just kind of take those pictures, for the company and attach them or whichever. Now they are going to the extent of they have a drone checking the roof, want to make sure that the roof is
ooh,
not, there's no pre-existing conditions, because again, sometimes it might not be right with the wrong intent. Some people might get a home insured and not know
yeah,
that the roof is deteriorating, right? Somewhere, something is going on. And it's like, well, wait a minute. The insurance company is like, well, no, no, no. It's almost like buying a car, right? And the tires are going bad. One of the, tires are bald, and then you're driving the car and then the tire pops, causes you to get in an accident. And it's like, well, wait a minute, right? Now it starts to, you got to start backtracking like, wait a minute, this tire's been bald since you got the car.
wow,
So, it's almost like with that, with the insurance company, with that, where, and sometimes people just, they genuinely don't know. I mean,
right,
when you buy, no, none of us are going on top of the roof to check to see, we trust either, the inspector to go up there and go
yep,
check. I
yep,
mean, even the
yep,
appraiser is not going up on the roof. So,
right,
that's full circle. That's kind of where, some of that stuff comes from. And, and like I said, the bad folks messed it up or mess it up for the good people, where they're going the extra mile now because they don't want to have to cough up. Again, that financial responsibility is being transferred over to the insurance company. So when it's come time to pay, they don't want to be blindsided where it was like, well, this was there all along, and now they got to cough up, you know,
yeah. So,
$300,000, right? So yeah.
how long does someone have during hurricane season to get accepted for a policy? Because I'm sure insurance agencies may put like a hold to say they're not accepting any policies during this time period, or is that not the case?
So we're not in, DMV area. This is not a hurricane. We
Yeah,
don't have. So the good thing about that, we don't have to worry about that. But in those, in places like Florida, um, those things are already kind of embedded within the policy, so they're already paying crazy high
crazy,
premiums,
crazy high.
crazy high premiums.
Yeah,
And for them, they don't even classify it as crazy high premiums, because every company across the board is charging, you know what I
Mm.
mean, crazy high premiums. So they're used to that, but it's based on the probability of that happening. So they don't really have to make any adjustments around hurricane season for their policy, because it's already there. They're
okay,
already paying that high premium just in case something like that were to happen. So even, well, I take that back. Places like Ocean City, it's within the
Gotcha.
policy. Yep. If you're in a flood zone area in general, even within this area, right, Prince George's County, Anne Arundel County, Montgomery County area ish, if you're within a flood zone area, the mortgagee loan officer, they would require you to get flood insurance.
gotcha.
Mm.
Yep.
Mm. So Felix, what is the 1 to 5 year goals for your insurance agency? What are you looking to do? What are you looking to grow to?
Each year the goal is definitely to grow by 25%. Or more. It doesn't. There's not. Hasn't always worked out that way. Even last couple of years, not necessarily. It's been a fluctuation, which is to be expected. But again, the goal each year is to grow by at least 25%. And then also within the next 3 years, the goal is to open up a second agency.
That's dope, man. That's dope.
Would that be a second location or two separate, like it'll be this agency that you have, and then somewhere it'll be a different one servicing different policies, totally different than what you're doing now? Okay.
Correct.
Got it.
It'll be yep.
That's dope.
So how can people get in contact with you? If anybody who's trying to seek information, some form of mentorship, again, when I say mentorship, that doesn't mean take up this man's entire day. If there's some specific questions after you've done your own due diligence through YouTube Freezy or through whatever, right? You may try to drop like 1 or 2 questions at him. So from some form of mentorship, or if people looking to get any type of insurance policies, how can they get in contact with you?
Or if they want to just join your firm.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, yeah. So again, my business cell, I'll throw it out there: 410-697-1714. Again, 410-697-1714. My Instagram, my business page is Mr.Insurance. Mr.Insurance. So that's my business Instagram page, and then my website is FelixJrInsures.com. So Felix Jr. Insures with an S, INSURES.com. So those are pretty much the 3 ways you can reach me. You can shoot me an email from my website. You can shoot me an email from my Instagram page, or you can text or call me, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions.
Man, this is another great episode, man. Great episode. Great information, man. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Again, Felix,
I appreciate y'all for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you for taking the time out, dropping these gems, sharing this information, giving some validation to my idea with the fire damaged homes and all. Yeah. But yeah, man.
Felix, we're going to get right back to you, man. We're going to put you in the green room and we'll be right back to you, brother.
Sounds good, man. Thank y'all.
Yeah. Man, another one. That was good, man. That was some good information.
Yeah, man. It was definitely drones, bro.
Hey,
we gotta be on the lookout. We gotta be on the lookout.
Man,
we gotta be on the lookout.
Man,
I'm just gonna leave it there. I ain't gonna say too much, bro. We gotta be on the lookout. We gotta be on the lookout.
And I'm gonna tell you, man, there was so much more that I wanted to ask, but I didn't, for the sake of time, because I wanted to get into builders risk policies and landlord policies. But I think, listen, we get Felix to come to Atlanta November the 2nd for the All Black, then we can ask all those questions because he'll be in the room, right? So if there's some questions you wanted to ask, right, and you want to ask in person, just make sure you join us. Just make sure y'all are there. Let me make sure I put it back up, right? Just make sure you join us. The All Black, November the 2nd in Atlanta, Georgia. Just make sure you get your tickets. TheForteExperience.com. You gotta be there. You gotta be there, bro. This was another good one, man. This was another good one. This was real good. This was real good, man. Man. Young brother doing his thing, man. I appreciate, his dedication, man. But they cover everything, everything. So listen. Get your auto covered, get your home covered. If you got a boat, get your boat covered. Get you some health insurance. And you know what? Get some life insurance. And you know what? Banking. Like, they got you covered, man. Like, man, y'all got to hit them up. Make sure you hit them. Yeah. We out of here. It's been nice.
What's your forte? Let's go.
Make sure you subscribe and follow the Forte Podcast. Go right now. The Forte community on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, Facebook, social media platforms. We're there. The Forte community. Go follow and subscribe right now. We appreciate y'all, man. We love y'all so much. Have an amazing day. We out of here.